Hello everyone, and welcome to my Days of Our Lives official. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Ava screamed out a hello as Rafe and Ava came up to Nicole, who was just about to head into the Brady pub. What a shock! Rafe and I were just heading in for brunch, so why don't you come along? Ava volunteered. I was only going to get something from Sweet Bits because I'm rushing late, but I would really like to. Perhaps at a different time. Nicole answered, then hurried away. On the way to Sweet Bits, Trip bumped into Trask at the Horton Town Square. Sorry to tell you, looks like you wasted a trip, Trask said. Hey. Yes. That's strange, they ought to have opened about 30 minutes ago, Trip said. Yes, I am aware of when they ought to have opened. Additionally, I am aware that I have just traveled across town to spend the previous 20 minutes cooling my heels. Trask complained. Sorry? Trip made the offer. Trask said, it's not your fault. Adequate baked goods, completely unprofessional management is the critique Trask began writing for Sweet Bits on a cell phone, but Trip opposed to the idea of having it posted online. Why shouldn't I? Trask pondered. Well, for one, it's not true and, mainly, it's not fair. You have no idea why they're late, Trip replied. And you do? Trask did the translating. Yeah, kind of, and, look, I'm telling you, this morning, Chanel doesn't need any more grief, okay? Trip explained. Allie woke up in Chanel's bed in the Price condominium, then moaned as she recalled the events of the night before. As Allie whispered, wasn't a dream. You're freaking out, stated Chanel. No! Allie demanded. After Chanel said, you're playing with your hair, you only do that when you're freaking out, Allie stopped fidgeting. I am aware that you were seeing another female for the first time last night. So, aren't you a little weirded out? Chanel speculated. No, not really, it felt natural to be with you last night, we made love, and it was so amazing in the moment. It's just, I can't stop thinking about this morning. As if on cue, Trip called right after Allie attempted to clarify. Trip started, I stopped by the bakery to see you, but it's closed, as Allie picked up the phone. Yeah. I knew Chanel was not going to be in any shape to work today, and I just didn't feel like running things by myself. It was kind of a long night. Allie clarified. So, where are you now? Trip pondered. Home, asserted Allie. Great, I have some time before work, I'll come right over and see you. Trip made up his mind. Allie retreated before attempting to conclude the conversation. Actually, I am running out the door, 'cause I'm gonna go check on Chanel, she said. I love you, Trip emphasized as he realized what was going on. Then Allie said, I love you, too. Was he suspicious? After Allie hung up, Chanel pondered. No, not at all, he was completely understanding, which just makes it clear that I am the worst person on the planet, Allie complained. Chanel countered, you're being too hard on yourself, I cheated on my boyfriend. Allie became anxious. I betrayed my spouse. Not that he cares, Chanel shot back. Chanel didn't believe it was a good idea for Allie to tell Trip the truth straight away. What happened between us last night, it was a one-time thing, and it was special. You were there when I needed you, but you still love Trip, and, don't you dare laugh, I still love Johnny, Chanel argued. Allie insisted, no, I have to tell Trip, I don't have a choice, remembering what had transpired when Sammy had attempted to conceal a similar circumstance from EJ. I want you to know that what happened last night, it wasn't planned when I asked you to stay, I did not intend for that to happen, Chanel said. I know, said Allie. Chanel was reassured by Allie that their friendship would not be ruined by the incident. On the way to Sweet Bits, Ava ran into Trip. Now that you are a full-fledged doctor, I feel like I never get to see you anymore. Ava hugged Trip and fretted. After informing Ava that Sweet Bits was closed, Trip gave her an explanation. Oh, Chanel, poor thing. Ava said, you know, I'm a Vitali, and I even think the Demoros are cruel bastards, before cautioning Trip to watch out for Allie and Chanel because of their past, which extended beyond friendship. That little tirade sounded pretty personal. Is everything okay with you and Rafe? Trip pondered. Perfect, but it is personal, because you are my son, and I don't want anyone hurting you, replied Ava. Mom, you don't need to be concerned about me. Trip said, Channel is not a threat, Allie and I are in a really good place. Allie later paid Trip a visit at the hospital. You seem pretty upset, Trip said. I am last night, Chanel and I. Allie made an effort to confess. At last, Trip nudged Allie, go on, we had a really long talk, and the more she was talking about Johnny, the more that I realized that I am so lucky to have you, and I feel like I don't tell you that enough, and maybe I sometimes take you for granted, Allie said. Trip said, you don't have to tell me anything I mean, when it's the real deal, you just know, no words necessary, before giving Allie a hug. Alone in the living room of the DiMera estate, the demonic apparition smiled at Stefano's portrait. So, last night was what I refer to as a party, caviar, champagne, mayhem, suffering. Oh, but that's only the start, wait until you see what I'm going to do next. No, the demonic apparition teased. Johnny? To whom are you speaking? From the threshold of the living room, EJ cried out. You spotted me talking to Nano sometimes. As Johnny said, crazy, huh? The demonic apparition answered. EJ countered, only if you hear him answer back, and then speculated that Johnny had been informing Stefano about what had transpired the night before. As Johnny asked, the demonic apparition questioned, you think I was indiscreet? Indiscreet, melodramatic, self-indulgent. That would be your mother in you, said EJ. The demonic entity urged Johnny, it might have been a little melodramatic, but effective. Effective, calculated, and, although there were moments where you did seem genuinely contrite, it was still very cruel, said EJ. The demonic spirit retorted, and that would be my father in me, as Johnny. Touch, mumbled EJ. I just hate those long, drawn-out postmortems. It's not you, it's me. Before shifting the topic, the demonic entity clarified as Johnny that EJ had been correct regarding Chanel and the decision to become a filmmaker. As Johnny paced the living room, the demonic entity declared, I was just telling Nano, right before you walked in, what I'm about to tell you now, that, I've been running from my legacy, and, my place in this world is not in Hollywood, it's here, at DiMera. Will you sit down, Johnny, please? A vulture seems to be circling overhead. EJ was anxious. Now, as swell as that is to hear, your timing is unfortunate. If the DA has her way, you'll be visiting me in Statesville, said EJ. However, wouldn't it be convenient to have someone at DiMera watch out for your interests? As Johnny played with one of the black bishops on the chess set, the demonic presence retorted, and, my interests are very closely tied with your interests. Please, don't mess with that anymore. Put it down. EJ made a demand. The demonic presence clarified as Johnny said, sorry, I was just thinking about Nano, chess, strategy, the move after the next move. My God, you're so full of DiMera this morning. EJ noted. I am thinking that if you end up going to jail, I will be the only one left to get you out, deal with Fredo, or Chad, and make sure that DiMera Enterprises has a AAA buy rating by the time you are released and I return control of the company. Now, I haven't figured out every detail yet, but I know where it begins. You must give me all of your shares, because, if you go to jail, Chad will start acting the moment you step inside that cell, and, I'm going to need the authority to vote your shares to keep him at bay, the demonic presence said as Johnny.